What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. So I'm a little bit late in talking about this particular story, but we all remember this spring when the Last Dance docu-series debuted on ESPN. It was originally slated to premiere toward the end of June when the NBA Finals would have been played had it not been for the situation going on in our country this year. Can't even say the word on YouTube, but it was pushed up due to high demand. Because of the stoppage of play, it was pushed up to, I believe, it was April. And it was a rousing success. Very high ratings, critical acclaim, but it didn't come without its critics. Okay. Um, One of the persons who did not like the docu-series that much was Scottie Pippen. And there were rumors that Scottie Pippen didn't like the way that he was portrayed. Okay. And Scottie Pippen did confirm recently that he confronted Michael Jordan about his personal grievances, and that Jordan, pretty much apologetically agreed to what Scottie was saying. Scottie felt like, that the series glorified Jordan too much and didn't, I guess, talk more about the team concept or the overall team mates, and it kind of, you know, they kind of targeted more about on Scottie's weaker points, whether you're talking about the migraine incident from 1990, Game 7, against the Pistons, or, that infamous moment in the 1994 playoffs against the Knicks when he refused to be on the court when the last play wasn't written up for him. That was a really low point in Scottie's career. It also talked about Scottie, basically holding out on the team during the beginning of the 97-98 season when Scottie refused to, temporarily play because he felt he was very low paid. He was one of the most underpaid players in the NBA. That season, he was 122nd in the NBA when it came to salary. So this is my take on it. Okay, I do believe that the Last Dance was a little bit too Jordan heavy. Okay, they did talk about Pippen. They did talk about Rodman. I wish they had talked more about Kukoc. I wish they had talked more about the other players on the team. Just even if it was fleetingly. Like I wish they had talked about Ron Harper. I wish they had talked about Bill Wennington, Randy Brown. If you watch the Chicago Bulls, Randy Brown was a really good defensive player coming off that bench. He brought a lot of energy. I wish they had talked about Jason Caffey. If you watch the Bulls, you know what I'm talking about. You know, I wish they had talked more about those individual players. Um, I agree with Scottie that they kind of focused, that the series kind of focused on his negative uh, moments, his bad moments. They should have talked more about how he elevated as a player. Initially, especially considering he had that back surgery as a rookie, it was starting to look like maybe Pippen was a bad investment. But by the 90, I would even say the 89-90 season, Phil's first year, that's when you could see the evolution of Scottie Pippen. He still wasn't as tough as need be, but you could definitely see the skill. You could definitely see the aftermath of playing with and more importantly against Michael Jordan. So you could see it rub off the same way that it rubbed off against Pau Gasol playing with Kobe Bryant. They could have focused on Scottie's All-Star year in 1991. They could have focused on all the great performances he had. And in my opinion, Scottie Pippen was an MVP caliber candidate from 93 to 95, 96. I'm not saying Scottie was the best player in the NBA. Okay, in my opinion, even when Jordan wasn't there, I thought that was probably Akeem Olajuwon. I'm not saying Shaq was. I mean, excuse me, Scottie was up on that level. But if you watch Scottie Pippen, the things that he brought to the court. Now, I know a lot of people don't agree with me on this, but when you watch what he brought to the game. Now, yeah, in certain instances, Scottie wouldn't show up. Maybe, he didn't have the best jumper. Maybe he didn't come through offensively as much as you would like him to. There are times when, he had his moments. But if you really watch the Bulls, Scottie was critical. He was crucial to those championships. Much in the same way that I have said time and time again that I don't think Klay Thompson gets as much credit as he does with the Golden State Warriors, or as he should with the Golden State Warriors. Now you got people here, you know, calling me a Curry hater, even though I have Steph Curry ranked fourth all time in point guards, but somehow I'm a Curry hater. But my point is this, and I've been consistent in this, no matter what other people might say. I don't like when one player gets all the credit. Okay, I don't like when LeBron James gets all the credit. I don't like when Steph Curry gets all the credit. And I didn't like, contrary to public and popular opinion, I didn't like when Jordan got all the credit. I didn't. I didn't. I thought Scottie Pippen deserved credit. Who was one of the first persons on YouTube? You guys been fucking with me for 10 years. If you've been fucking with me all the way back to my old channel, I was one of the first persons on YouTube that pushed Dennis Rodman as a Hall of Famer. The perception 2009, 2010 wasn't that he was a Hall of Famer. He wasn't in the Hall of Fame then. I was one of the first persons on YouTube pushing that I thought that Dennis Rodman had a Hall of Fame resume. I was one of the first ones. Why? Because I watched him play during the Chicago Bull era, and then more importantly, I watched him play when he was with the Detroit Pistons. And despite the fact that he wasn't a great scorer, even though I think he could have been more of a scorer if he was more interested in it. Not saying a 20-point per game scorer, but he could have been a double-digit scorer if he wanted to. But his thing was more about rebounding, defense, and playing mind games. Okay? Just his rebounding alone, the two Defensive Player of the Year awards, puts him in that category. The 5 championships, that's just erases all doubt. Tony Kukoc, I think, was very underrated. All right, so I've been very consistent in saying that I don't like when one guy gets all of the credit. Another example of my consistency on this issue, Bill Russell. People always talk about how Bill Russell won 11 championships in 13 seasons, while forgetting the Hall of Fame talent around him. Whether you're talking about Bill Sharman or Bob Cousy or Sam Jones or John Havlicek or the late Tom Heinsohn, the late John Havlicek for that too, for that matter. Or you talking about Tom Sanders? Come on, Casey Jones. So, you know, getting back to my point, I agree that Scottie should have been portrayed in a better light. Okay, um, it's a shame that he was underpaid for so long. Uh, you know, I think that he's still underappreciated by some people. The fact of the matter remains is he is a top 50 all-time player. And at the end of the day, um, you know, wherever Scottie played, he did tend to elevate those clubs. It didn't work with him in Houston, but it is what it is. You know, for the most part, when Scottie played, wherever he played, he elevated those clubs. And you know, I never saw a better consistent defensive player at the small forward position. I'm sorry. In his prime, he was, to me, the best perimeter defender. And really, he was more perimeter. He was a very versatile defensive player. He could guard really the four to the point. And um, offensively, yeah, there were some games where he stunk it up. But when you're guarding the other team's best player, generally speaking, especially in a series, that's going to hurt you in your offense. You're you're using up a lot of your energy playing defense. If guys were just playing offense all the time, not playing defense, just standing around, yeah, you're going to have a lot more energy in the fourth quarter, in the second half of the game, well, fourth quarter especially, than if you're playing defense. I remember like when I was, when I didn't play organized basketball, but whenever I would play basketball with friends of mine or whatever, I like to play defense. But defense, unless you're running the basket, that shit takes away from your legs. And if you're a shooter, it's going to hurt your jump shoot, especially as you get older. So, yeah, whether it's talking about Pippen or Clay Thompson or anybody that does a thankless job of guarding the other player's best uh, score, um, yeah, it's going to hurt you offensively, especially as Scottie got older. Once he went past the age of 30, he slightly declined. He gradually declined over the years. Yeah, it did hurt him. But Scottie's a great, great player. He does deserve more credit. So that's all I got to say. So much you guys think.